Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Product Perspective Talks, wherein we talk beyond features and roadmaps to bring real conversations with product leaders who are shaping the future of tech. I am Mithila. I am the marketing manager at Amoeboids. Today, I am co-hosted by my colleague Sujit Pathak, who is the senior product manager at our organization. Welcome, Sujit. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, hi Mithila. Hi Kyle. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So today we are absolutely thrilled to be speaking to our guest, Kayal Kayal. She's a product leader and currently a senior product manager at PayPal, leading high impact payment initiatives. She's worked across fintech, mobility, and automation at companies like Genpact and Ford. With a background both product and program management and a passion for storytelling and poetry, she brings a unique creative lens to tech leadership. Welcome, Kyle. It's great to have you today with us.
Thank you, Mithila. Thank you for having me in this conversation. I'm absolutely looking forward.
Great. So, without a further ado, let's get started with the session. So, I'll start with my first question. So, you've worked in both fintech and mobility, right? So, they are like two-faced sectors which requires, innovation, precision, etc. Since it's involved with payments as such. So, how has working in these industries shaped your approach in building the products?
Yeah. So when I reflect back at my journey, I have done three different roles, three different domains, three different industries, right? I have worked in the mobility wing of an automotive company, right? In the cusp of digital transformation. It's a traditional industry going through digital transformation. And I have worked in a consulting firm building automation products for their retail multinational clients. And I'm working in a fintech payments company. If you look at the first one, the mobility wing of an automotive company, you look at the users, right? The users don't really go discover the product and buy them, right? They inherit the product. Think of a connected vehicles product that comes along with the purchase of your car. So, in that sense, you don't drive downloads, right? It's not like people go discover, download that app, and they can just start using. It comes along with the journey of ownership of the car, but you give features which unlocks value to the customers, and they start adopting it and using it, right? So there it was about driving visibility and adoption. And then if you see, I moved into a consulting firm, B2B automation product. There the clients paid, right? They paid money, they locked the budget, it was ready, the product was built. But the users have to unlearn years of, doing manually the same work they would have done, manually. Now they have to use automation products to do it. So it was about driving behavioral change. It tells you just paying doesn't change behavior, right? So you have to really drive behavioral change in the users. And it's a B2B setup. Then I come to payments, which is highly regulated. In that space, I optimize for transaction expense. Now I don't own one UI or one funnel, right? I work across multiple product teams to drive an outcome. It's that outcome that I own. So if you look at my thought process around product, it has changed from or evolved from driving visibility to driving behavior to driving alignment without direct ownership. So when you look at product management, people say a product manager is a CEO of a product, right? That's a very common myth that is there. But in reality, we don't have the authority of a CEO, right? No product manager has that power. The real sense is influencing without that authority. I think that is what that's the skill that has evolved in me over these three industries, over my product career.
Quite interesting. I think the experience must have given you a lot of learnings, starting from mobility, wherein actually you design the product based on the use cases where people are actually using the product, and then build over it. And then when it comes to regulatory industries, it's more about, since it's based on payments and everything, there are a lot of things which you need to take care of actually while releasing the feature, right? Yeah.
Sure.
Uh, I just have few questions on this, Kyle. It's interesting what you explained. You mentioned about automations, like it's about bringing the change in the behavior from manual work to automated work. Uh, can you shed some more light on this? Like, how did you approach this process? Because even we at Amoeboids, we have some products which are there to automate people's day-to-day manual work. So we also face this kind of challenges when we face the queries from our customers or our potential clients. So can you, go a bit deeper on this topic?
Sure. So building automations for a manual work, basically, this is something I heard from a CEO, right? Now, everything is good when you're doing a work manually, right? You have used lean tools, Six Sigma, to put processes in place and make sure a human being isn't at the best of their efficiency to do a task manually. But if you don't automate it along with the technology, it doesn't mean it's just going to stay with you, right? If you don't make yourself obsolete, then someone else is going to make you obsolete, right? That is very important when it comes to automation, and people have to realize that. So it is automating a manual task that our organization has been already doing is actually making ourselves obsolete. But that is very, very important and essential in the era that we are in, right? Especially with AI taking a fourth seat or front seat of the technology, it becomes all the more important that automation is to be taken up by the very own people who are doing the manual work today, right? And any help, internal, external, automate the processes. What it helps is to unlock a lot of value and potential that otherwise would have gone into mundane tasks. Now is switching into strategic thinking and doing a lot of strategy work, right? So it just shifts you to a higher order workplace and frees up a lot of time and value. So it's not replacing human work, but raising human work to a level up. That's how I see automation.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Means it's quite natural, and in fact, in today's world, we are talking about agentic AI and all those stuff.
Sure.
It is actually going at one place higher when we are talking about automations. One more question. You have switched between the domains over the years, right? One common question that always comes when I speak to some, budding product managers or anyone, just stepping into tech space, they always are worried about, switching between domains when they switch between the organizations, or even within the organization when they get to work on some other projects. And a domain knowledge is always, is something that is have. And sometimes I feel that unnecessarily valued much higher than it required. Uh, what is your experience when switching between the domains? How one should cope up with that change?
It is, I mean, I won't lie, right? Domain changes are very difficult. They are not a very easy thing to do, right? I won't say, I just mastered it. I just walked in and, took it in 30 days. So that doesn't happen that way, right? It is difficult. I didn't really seek domain change in every step of my career, but it just happened, right?
Yeah.
Your first principles stay the same. Your product management principles don't change, right? They stay the same. But domains, and whether B2B, B2C, B2B2C, all of these things add nitty-gritties along with the domain. The changes are definitely difficult. But one thing that I have observed is the first 30 days, first 90 days, you be, or I have done this. I'll not say you, right? I'm talking about myself at least, right? I have been a blank notebook, right? I have walked into rooms literally metaphorically, and asked, see, I'm a blank notebook, right? Tell me everything I need to know about this industry and this domain of work that we're doing. Some time ago, someone approached me for mentorship, moving from one organization to another. She asked me, I'm going into this new domain, I'm doing my preparation, I'm going to read everything about this company that exists on the internet, right? And listen to their earnings calls, make notes of all of that and all that. And she said, what advice do you have for me? She asked me. And I told her only one thing, right? All these earning calls, everything can, wait, right? All of that can wait. Instead, I said, look at what happens on a day-to-day basis in that product organization, especially when you're managing teams. I'll be vulnerable and share a real-time example, right? I went into an organization, first-time manager. I didn't have reportees till then. Very junior compared to the reportees who will report into me. 12 years, 13 years experience people. I had just 6 years experience at that point. I didn't know anything about finance and accounting. I didn't know anything about, the client area industry of retail. But they're all, veterans in that industry. They have really done this job over and over and over again, right? How do I really go and establish myself as a leader whom they can trust, right? The first thing I told them is, I don't know anything about this industry. I'm going to learn from you, right? But it can also backfire that they may think if you don't know to use the tools, very simple tool it could be, right? They're going to tell you, come on, you don't even know to use this tool, right? And how are you even really going to manage us, right? Then that's what I told this mentee, right? Managing up is something you could do after you join the organization because they hired you for a reason. They have seen something in you. They will wait for 1 month or 2 months, give you the time to pick up the domain, to pick up the industry, to pick up, or reframe your thought into this domain of product and run. But managing down is very important because that's where you establish that image. The first month, when you have, team reportees, it's important to make them understand that they can, you bring something to the table which they can trust. Sometimes it could even be as simple as learning the tools that are there in their portfolio or in their kitty, what they're working on every day, to understand their challenges so that you can just run with it, right? So for me, it's a very counterintuitive thing that people might, say, don't start with the 10,000 feet view and narrow down to the 10 feet view. If you ask me, if you're moving domains, if you're moving companies, start with the 10 feet view and slowly zoom up to go to the 10,000 feet view, right? That is my, suggestion, and that has only worked for me.
Yeah, right. I think that's a great advice. Having that clarity and honesty that while starting up, instead of directly trying to put your authority, you should be honest enough to accept and give yourself some time to learn, and maybe hands-on approach would definitely work here. Another question again about your introduction. You have currently, I think, working in payments domain, right? BFSI domain payments is something which is always on the rise. At the same time, it's fairly complex and regulated environment. So, means of course I have not worked into this domain, but what I have seen is fairly regulated environment where you have too many constraints to look after. So in that particular frame, how do you approach product innovations?
Yeah. So innovation in regulated industries is, I wouldn't say it is about, generally in product, this is an advice, again, common advice given, right? Move fast, break things. It's better to say sorry and then, move smart, all this, right? But in regulated industries, you don't have the room to do that. You can't break things and say sorry, right? Many times you can't. It is important to move not fast, but really smart. And innovation, I wouldn't say there is no room for it, because you see the best innovations of the world, right? Leave product. Even if you look at the world's innovation map, you would see the best innovation has come when there were constraints. when there was frugality, when there was a need. Necessity is the mother of invention, right? So look at regulations, look at rules as something that's part of the canvas. You have to paint on it or including it rather than trying to erase it or go around and find a loophole, right? That is something that is always thought about when it comes to regulated industries. I personally think, I mean, this is all philosophy talk. Practically speaking, what I really do is I follow three things. One, I would say co-create from day one. Legal is definitely going to be involved in your product. Compliance is going to be involved in your product, right? Risk is going to be all these approvals you need, right? So try and involve them into your product thinking as early as possible, formally, informally, over a coffee chat, water cooler chat, anything, right? So their perspectives have to be baked in from day one. Otherwise, you build a whole product, go for review. It becomes you versus them, right? At the end of the day, it's not that way. Product or legal, both of you work for helping the users and building your company, right? So co-create with legal or risk or compliance, whoever is in a part of the regulatory process. Second, use structure, use tools. There is nothing called over documentation. There is nothing called over communication, right? Make sure you put those Confluence pages, you put those, use Jira, note down all the decisions and have consistent product rituals so that anything, when it comes to audits, when it comes to even mere clarity of decision making, it's very important. Clarity is as much important as velocity in regulated industries. That is something I think that is very important to drive innovation. And since we are talking about ChatGPT and all of this Gen AI stuff, I would say treat your regulations, treat your rules as your design prompts, right? Let them be your prompts while you're designing the product. If you are an AI and regulation is a prompt, how do you design with that, not over that? That is something that I'd ask people to keep in mind. So these are the three practical approaches that I would say is important for innovation in regulated industries.
Great. I think those are great insights. Any examples that you can give, like, means what I'm trying to ask you here is, let's say in a certain regulated framework, there have been a way in which all the players in the market have been operating. And then somewhere you see a disruption from one of the players, still being able to lie between those boundaries, but still doing the things differently to do some breakthrough innovation.
Sure. I could talk about one of our examples. So many of these things we have done, but at least I'll talk about one thing I have done, right? So most of our, so you take off regulation and payments, it is all, thousands of pages of bulletins, thousands of pages of rules that come to you. You are supposed to follow them, abide by them, right? There was a time when we looked at this and looked at it as an opportunity, right? Now, these networks give you so many rules, but if you find out creative ways to stick to some of them, you get better rates, better interchange buckets. Now, it's not a glamorous work, right? It's not glamorous like a B2C product where, there is a nice icon, someone is flying, someone is catching. No, that doesn't happen in this environment. But it's not a very glamorous thing. It's about thousands of pages, still finding that one way to make sure it's not even visible on your product when you see it, but a simple routing technique maybe, right? Based on a merchant category and the card category, route your transaction in one way rather than doing it the other way. It unlocks a lot of potential for the player and it makes the user experience. So these guardrails always exist for us, right? We can't, that's what, as I said, these rules are there to, it's like driving on a racing track, right? There is track, there are guardrails to protect you, so you can't go rogue. So don't think of them as brakes, but think of them as guardrails, and find what you can do creatively within the rules that have been given and use them creatively to unlock value. Right? Simple. If there are rules, if there are special buckets, find creative ways to make sure you fall into those buckets, your transactions fall into those buckets, so that you unlock best rates. That could be one of the very easy examples, right? So in within regulation, how do you play creatively? That is my example.
So, sense of, how you have leveraged it in your, regulatory industries. So as we speak about AI, right? You rightly said it is like a driving force. It's like, trigger for you to up your work, right? So there are PMs who are just beginning their AI journey, right? Without necessarily being, a scientist in data, right? What are some of the simple practical ways they can use AI in their day-to-day work?
Sure. I'll say how I use it in my day-to-day life without the data scientist ways of doing it, right? Very simple. I use ChatGPT as an assistant, a partner, an analyst, and a coach. These are the 4 hats I put on GenAI, right? The first hat is my assistant. Draft emails, right? Write documentation, write PRDs for me, and then take those PRD link from Confluence, put it in Jira, and just paste the link, right? Now, we have AI features where it just summarizes the entire Confluence, creates the Jira description for you, right? Then summarize your long mail threads, take notes from meetings. These things, very simple, an assistant that could do for you. Then I use it as a thinking partner, right? A partner for my thought process to help me brainstorm feature ideas. I identify user personas and I tell GPT or any GenAI tool saying, okay, you are this user persona, right? I'm going to interview you without even me going into actually the interview slots, because sometimes we build for B2B. The time slot we get with the users is almost nil, right? Because we talk with the sales team, we don't get to the users at all. In such scenarios, how do you simulate that user persona conversations, right? And to think of edge cases in my product, which I might not have thought about, but GPT can come up with it, or any GenAI tool can come up with it, and I still, optimize for those edge cases. So those are ways I use it as thinking partner. I definitely use it as an analyst, right? To do competition research, what competition is doing, what are the external political scenarios, that pestle research, right? Or to do that. And even internal data, right? When I have internal data, we have an internal AI tool, specific for our organization, where we can actually share internal data, ask for insights, right? I want to see this in this type of a chart and get this insight out of this data. Can you do that for me, right? I have a handy analyst. The fourth one is something that is often kind of overlooked, right? When you grow in product management, it is very important you balance stakeholders and you manage some amount of power and politics, right? I have used GPT to tackle this, right? Or GenAI to tackle this. I tell the tool, come on, this is something I have thought of. Maybe this person above me may not be okay with it. This team has a different intention. How do I make sure, without hurting any egos, without breaking any, rocking the boat, how do I still get this across and really make, at the end of the day, it should work for me, right? The feature should go live, or, this idea should fly. How can I do that, right? So I use GenAI to navigate office politics and power. And that is where I call it my coach. Midnight, I'm really scared to hit send on that button, not knowing what it is going to rock. And then I frantically type on the tool and say, okay, I'm going to send this mail. What can I anticipate? And it kind of comforts me and it tells me, okay, you can do this, you can do it this way. It really, really helps. So it is my no judgment zone. It is never tired of my sixth draft or my sixth doubt or my midnight sixth conversation.
All right. Very interesting and nicely put up as an analyst, as a assistant, and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm very much sure, multiple people who really want to use it for their work this is going to be helpful. And I do use it for my daily work as well, especially when there are cases, when we need to respond to some partners and I don't have time to respond it in a polite way. Just talk to Chat GPT and you have the, answers so that, everybody is happy and eh, so that's nicely put up. Yeah, Sujit, you want to take up the next one?
Yeah. So now, because we are on this AI topic, these days every product in the market is AI powered. Whether they are actually using it or not, that's another part. But jokes aside, how has been your experience about integrating real AI into your products? Have you had chance to do it, and how that has been, going on? So
For this question, I'm going to go to the pre-GPT era, right? Pre-Gen AI era. Because now, as you said, everything is AI powered. I'm going to talk about a time when we integrated AI before all this. In one of my earlier roles, we needed an OCR solution to process invoices, right? It's a very simple, straightforward use case. There were many tools in the market. Most of them were powered by the same underlying OCR engine, right? The engine is the same. It's one of the tech giant. They have OCR engines and you just use them. And every product uses almost the same OCR engine. But when we were analyzing this, we realized we had something that these tools did not have. That is years and years of human expertise in handling invoice exceptions and the edge cases that come up in the invoices, right? So instead of plugging in that generic solution, we built an internal product that combined the OCR engine, which was available, right? The tech from the tech giant, an AI algorithm trained on our specific data patterns and fallback workflows, which would be driven by experienced human beings who have done this day in and day out, for years. Now, this combination, the last part with the human complement and custom built, is what made it a differentiator in our product, right? It is not the very beautifully written AI code, but it just didn't automate the obvious. It handled the messy 20% or 10% that usually breaks most systems, right? So it's a differentiator even in today's world in the era of GPT, where the lesson still applies. AI works the best, but it works even better when it is paired with human judgment, especially in high stakes, exception heavy kind of scenarios. So I have integrated it in multiple products in different ways, but this one is my favorite any day.
great. One more question on this. How do you see the concerns about security when it comes to AI integration in your products? Because even we at Amoeboids have done this in a limited space so far, but uh, our customers occasionally come to us about asking about the security of their data when it is being processed through AI, and especially in the industries like what you are working in, that
Yeah,
makes
exactly, right? So that
all the more.
is all the more difficult, yes. So that's why I said in the beginning, right? When I use AI tools, I have at least, okay, I'll be honest. When I started using Gen I used it only for personal use cases. I never even wrote a PRD with Gen right? I never opened ChatGPT on my work laptop because I'm scared, right? I don't know what is going where. And I didn't really want to do that on my office laptop. I always had it on my Android or on my personal laptop. I never even opened it in my office laptop. That's how cautious I was when it started, right? And then a funny use case. I have a baby less than 1 year old, and I used to track his sleep and used GenAI to be the sleep coach for my baby, right? Sleep training my baby. I used it. That's how I was using GPT, like a toy, right? And then when industry started catching up, the regulated industries, players in the regulated industries have proper guardrails put around these models and have, come up with tools that work the best for their organizations, making sure this data doesn't go out, right? Because the data we handle in industries like ours is not just ours, it's not our data, but we have to be very, very careful because it's our partners' data, it's our customers' data, right? And many of them are PI data, right? So we are very, very mindful, and I'd ask other product managers also to be very, very mindful of what you feed to the system, because there are security concerns, and we never know, right? It is at the end of the day what we feed that we can control, and we be on top of it. But what happens to the data after that, and how that is managed, is many times as end users not within our control. So my suggestion or my approach to this is like playing with fire. Be very, very careful when how close you can go to the fire, instead of, because you found a great tool, don't use it to burn bridges and houses, right? So I have had concerns, but I'm very mindful of what I input, especially within the AI environment that our organization has put already guardrails to.
I think that's the cautious approach that, especially in the regulated industry, that's the way it should be. I think I have seen even in those industries like yours, people are using AI to a certain extent, like fraud detection and all those stuff.
Yeah.
But definitely, it's a cautious approach that
Yeah,
needs
there
to
is
be.
agentic commerce right now picking up. Agent does your entire shopping. You have to just say, buy a white hoodie for me, right? Or a white
Mm.
t-shirt for me. Everything, including your car details, everything. Completely, agent talks to another agent, does shopping for you. In regulated industries, there is use of AI. But the guardrails have to be really strong, and as an individual product manager, I wouldn't take that risk, but organizations definitely use it with proper guardrails.
That makes sense.
So that's what we can, conclude. So moving ahead, when you're building products, right, in these domains of payment and mobility across global teams, right, the definition of success or, being happy customers will vary, right? So like something which matters to the compliance team or something which matters to the customer support team may not be the same thing which is, accepted by the leadership team, right? So you have navigated this complexity at a very large scale, I would believe. So just wanted to know, how do you measure and shape product success with stakeholders, especially when you're working across multiple teams and priorities? It's based on your last experiences.
I often jokingly say, right, if there is 10,000 rupees, my husband would look at it as 1,000 samosas. And my mother would look at it as, 3-4 months of groceries. Right? That's the same number, same, unit of measure. But each person looks at it with their own lens, right? That's how it is. It's the same for product metrics as well. All right. Finance sees ROI. Product teams mostly look at user experience. How was the friction? How do you, really do it? Leadership sees whether it is scalable, whether there are defensible levers. It's how the leadership looks at it. My North Star is measure what matters, and what matters to the first, whom we are building this product for, right? Definitely measure what matters for them. But another thing I definitely measure is the guardrail metrics, especially in a regulated industry, right? Because I can optimize for cost today, but that doesn't mean it can sabotage my authorization rate, right? I can build an amazing feature, right? Very nice to look at, decreasing user friction, bringing in user delight, right? All these nice words used in product management, user delight. But if it increases my, latency, or if it plays with my availability, then it becomes a problem. So the guardrails are something that I'm very focused on. When the obvious metrics, definitely we measure within the guardrail metrics, and while communicating, you communicate the balance of both, right? What stakeholder wants to see? If they want to see 1,000 samosas, I show them 1,000 samosas. Yes, this is what we have achieved, right? But at the same time, we have achieved this while keeping 100 other things in place, or two other things in place, even if it is lesser, right? Authorization is in place, user experience is intact, or it has gotten better. At the same time, we have improved on the cost or the expense lever, right? So measuring success is not just about what increased, but also about what did not increase or what did not decrease, right? At least maintained. That guardrail is something that is very important in industries like ours.
So basically, the basic metrics need not be overlooked just because you have achieved something which is up to that.
Exactly.
Interesting. Got that. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, Kyle, I think at the beginning you mentioned about a typical jargon in product space or product parlance, like product managers are people who need to influence without authority. I was curious to see your profile. You are along with being a successful product manager, you are also a public speaker, a presenter, even a poet. How does these creative aspects of your personality influence the way you communicate as a product manager or lead the teams, if I had to say that?
Yeah. So this is the beauty of what we are, right? We write specs, we write retro strategy documents, we write mentoring notes. We also write, I also write poetry. I speak in meetings, I speak in interviews like this, but I also speak in public speaking forums. So this brings the humanness in me. And a very important element of product management, that the software element that is not very often spoken about, is empathy, right? Being a poet, a public speaker, helps me look at things from other people's shoes, right? It makes me more empathetic, understand the room, then understand my audience, so that those intuition that I have picked up from these creative outlets have helped me in my day-to-day work when pitching to leadership, or talking to users. The attention to tone, how I frame things, how I have the flow of narration, right? Exactly how I would prepare for a stage, right? It is the same thing I do in a communication meeting with my leadership, right? Now, whatever I have learned, yeah, I speak. I have also written something together. By the time we this video comes out, people might even have a link to order. I have written a book, gathering all the thoughts and experiences I have had. Very practical, no fluff, especially for women, because I see there is a gap in mentorship for and relatable role models for women in the industry, right? So for women in corporate and men who want to be allies for these women, I have written a no fluff pocket mentor. I would call it that way, right? You have a mentor in your pocket anytime you can pick it up, kind of a thing. I've written a book also that is getting published. I mentor a lot of people. So all of these make me human and make me an empath. Bringing that empathy into work has been a very symbiotic kind of the relationship, nurturing. I mean, this nurturing that and that nurturing this, right? Both ways, it has been very very helpful, and it's just not communication. It's about shared understanding that I bring to the table through these creative outlets.
I think that's an interesting blend of, personality traits, I would say, because even I'm being a product manager, I have gone through those product management courses and trainings, and people are generally taught to, be empathetic, user personas, design thinking, being in the shoes of your customers or your users. All those stuff are being taught, and you have to inculcate them deliberately within yourself if you want to be a good product manager. And I think that comes naturally to you because of your other creative outlets. And on your book, I definitely looking forward. We are looking forward for that.
Thank you.
We'll definitely see that book after the launch. So all the best to you on your book launch.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ajit.
So when Kyle, when you said it is specially meant for women, you want to be their, helping hand and things like that. So I'm very excited to, to see the first link and look into it, how it can really help me, to shape my career as well.
Definitely. I'll share it once I have it ready.
Yeah. Thanks. And congratulations to you.
Thank you, Mula.
So moving ahead, so building great products that takes more than a strategy, right? It takes team that can thrive uncertainty, adapt to fast changing, conditions and etc. So drawing from your experiences, what's your approach to building resilient, adaptable product teams that don't just serve the change but also grows with it?
We've all been there, right? I have worked on features users just didn't adopt, right? The user mentality changed before the product got shipped or the feature got shipped. I have built products from scratch only to see them get irrelevant by one compliance bulletin, right? I have inherited roadmaps. Trust me, the most difficult roadmap I have inherited, I did not create, right? It just came to me. It was all locked before I joined the organization, but I have to deliver it anyway, right? It is just there. Seen reorgs happening, change everything overnight, right? Whatever we have thought, whatever we have built, all the beautiful product roadmaps, one org rechange, a lot of these things change. It is in product, in situations like this, adaptability, resilience is not a nice to have. It is necessary for survival. Otherwise, you just can't survive, right? So if you look at a team setup, now, how do we make sure teams are resilient to this change and really adapt? I think it's a habit, right? One thing I would say is, or I put it again in 3 points. I think a lot in threes, and one is make change less scary on a day-to-day basis, right? Don't talk in your team meetings, in your product roadmap discussions as if change is a villain that is coming up, or change would not even come up. We want to avoid change. No, that doesn't work that way, right? Make it a part of the routine. Don't just review roadmaps. Anticipate what could change, and talk about what already changed, right? Openly talk about shifting goals, shifting priorities, reprioritization, team realignments. All this happen. That those are part and parcel of our lives, right? So don't keep it a very closed thing and scary thing. Just make it open, discuss it openly. And that's the first, right? The second one I would say is, don't build just for a sprint, right? Don't run sprints. Run a system. So invest your time, energy, and effort into creating a structure. For context, let's say you use a tool like Confluence. For clarity, have Jira. and you have recurring checkpoints that keep you grounded. All these rituals are not rituals for the sake of rituals, right? If a change comes, you can be resilient only if you have proper structure built around it, all the documentation in place, and your rituals kind of guide you to handle that change without rocking the boat too much, right? Redesigning becomes easier. And the last one, but definitely not the least, very important one is, as teams, I don't lead a team now. I'm an individual contributor in my current role. I have led teams before. But whether I'm a part of a team or I lead a team, this is something we all have to make sure that the teams own the entire product, right? It is just not execution that the teams do, but they themselves know this is the product. When a change comes in any form, they don't see it as, oh my God, this change came. Now I have to rework on the entire thing. Instead of that, how is this change going to affect my product? When I own it, I wouldn't think of it as a villain or, as a hassle, but I would see as, how can I use it as an enabler and be resilient, build better next going forward, right? So plans will change. That is there, but people shouldn't break for it, right? So every time when a change comes, my mantra is accept, pivot, and rise. We are much capable of doing that, right? That should be a shared goal of teams. That is my idea.
Always look at the change as an opportunity to improve. That's what I would take it as. Like, when Chat GPT came in, a lot of, content writers said, since I'm from marketing, I'll give you that example. A lot of content marketers said that, our jobs are gone and we don't have anything to work on and things like that. But I did, we do have content writers in house. So I did tell them, Chat GPT is just going to help you give a set of points. But at the end of the day, it's not going to help you in any, I mean, it is going to be helpful, but then again, human intervention is required. So adoption is something which needs to be looked at as an opportunity to improve and scale. That is what I would, take it as. And that's how
Completely agree.
Yeah. So
I think we are let's toward the end of the session, and I think it has been such a enthralling discussion so far. One last question, Kyle, before we let you go. What would be your product philosophy in a single sentence?
This is usually the toughest question. No, you can talk for paragraphs and minutes. One sentence product philosophy. My one sentence product philosophy, mainly because I am a business product manager, is, and it's okay if you're a platform product manager, business product manager, user facing product manager, whatever you are, right? I think build for efficiency, build for value, but anchor in clarity. Whatever product manager you are, shared understanding is the most important thing. So that's the one line: build for efficiency and value, but anchor in clarity.
I think this is going to be really helpful, and build for value is something which is a takeaway for today's session, I would say, looking at the entire experience. So Kyle, this has been a wonderful session with a lot of insights and a lot of uh, pointers to be taken up in the number of threes. So thank you for sharing your journey, your product wisdom, and your creative lens with us. We've taken away so many great takeaways today.
Thank you very much, Mithila. This has been a wonderful experience for me as well, both from a reflection point of view. I would not have thought so much if you had not asked me so much of deep questions. And very happy to be reaching out to the Amoeboids community through this video, and absolutely enjoyed the experience of talking to you from a marketing lens, and to Sujit, a fellow partner in crime, a fellow product manager. Very glad, and looking forward to more partnerships.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much. To all our viewers, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like and follow for more such insightful conversations. Until next time, stay curious and keep building. Thank you very much.